Hello, Michael over here again, Associate Professor at Shoreline Community College. Today's video is going to focus on general research methods and the annotated bibliography that is due on Friday. The rough draft, that is due on Friday. And you've probably already done some research, so we'll get there. General announcements first. Your annotated bibliography rough draft is due Friday via Canvas. And due July 11th, which is the following Tuesday, is your research project. And we'll talk about that again in class on Thursday when we meet. Additionally, I just want to remind you that article post groups have changed, so you won't have the article post response due on Thursday, or on Wednesday rather, today, as indicated in the syllabus. Additionally, what you'll want to read tonight is you will want to read John Trimble from Writing with Style, Thinking Well, and Getting Launched. So really tonight, all you have to do other than watch this video and read those two chapters, they're relatively short, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else, but maybe after watching this video, you will want to get started on your annotated bibliography. It'd be a good idea. So, general research methods. Get my computer cooperate here. So how do most of us conduct research? So most of us do online research almost exclusively, and many of us start with general internet search, Bing, Google, etc., which is okay for personal use but has limited academic or professional use. Google Scholar is a decent start, and we kind of saw that with Walk, Talk, Cook, Eat, which you read the other day. The thing that we often forget, as that Holler essay, Walk, Talk, Cook, Eat, mentioned, is that we often forget that the library is full of books and magazines that can supplement your research. So don't just pin yourself down to Google. By all means, at least use EBSCO, which we looked at the other week and we'll look at a little bit in this presentation as well. So one of the things that I want to talk about, and again to expand on what we talked about in class last Thursday, is the difference between a popular source and a scholarly source, right? So a popular source, the big difference in my mind is the difference of intended audience. So a popular source is intended for mass consumption. It's a popular source probably written by a journalist. A scholarly source is a scholarly source, on the other hand, is intended for academics or experts, and a scholarly source is probably written by a professor or other expert within a field, scientist, doctor, something like that. So, again, just to reiterate, a popular source is one published in mainstream media, websites, newspapers, magazines, intended for the general public, generally used for entertainment or general information, and some examples of this would be something like Fortune magazine, the BBC, The Economist. The list goes on and on and on, but chances are, if you think of a newspaper or a magazine or a website, they're probably going to be a popular source. What a popular source looks like. So this is from Fortune magazine, so just grabbed something that looked similar or connected to our course focus. So how powerful AI technology can lead to unforeseen disasters. Note, the title gains our attention, right? It's not super technical. There's no abstract at the beginning. I see that Jonathan Banyan wrote this, but it doesn't say PhD. I don't get any other information. I also see that it's relatively recent, February 6, 2017. This is not written several years ago, so it's likely to be up to date. Another note that I would say is, if you look at just the first sentence, self-driving cars and robots can zoom on their own around warehouses are just some of what's possible because of artificial intelligence. That is not the type of vocabulary that I would expect to see in a scholarly journal. Zoom itself, great word, but probably not one we're going to see in an academic journal. So one thing that you can also look at is wording, right? Wording sometimes helps us decide whether or not something's popular or scholarly. A scholarly source, on the other hand, is one published in an academic peer-reviewed journal and intended for an academic or professional audience. These are professionals writing for professionals. It's generally intended for academic research. One of the things to think about is these scientists or professors who are conducting research often write an essay that summarizes what they've found. So examples would be American Journal of Psychiatry, the Journal of Molecular Biology, and JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. Note that a lot of the time the word journal is in academic journal, right? Doesn't necessarily sound like something you would find sitting in the dentist's office, right? So what it looks like. So note the difference here. At the top you get scientific engineering ethics. Science and Engineering Ethics is the title of the journal. You get a title here, Artificial Intelligence and Robot Responsibilities, Innovating Beyond Rights. So maybe that grabs our attention a little bit. Doesn't sound super interesting to me so far. The other thing is that we can note that there is an abstract here, and an abstract is basically a condensed version of the essay. So it's usually a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, something like that, that gives a quick summary or overview of the full article, so that we can kind of cruise through that abstract and know what we're reading. And look at the first sentence here, right? The enduring innovations in artificial intelligence and robotics offer the promised capacity of computer consciousness, sentience, and rationality. So you get a different vocabulary than we saw with robots zooming around a warehouse, right? So that'd be another good indication. Okay. All right. So let's go on to Boolean searches. And this is something we talked about very briefly in class on Thursday, and it's something that you read about in Walk, Talk, Cook, Eat. So a Boolean search is essentially what Google is used for, right? Instead of typing in a question, we use keywords, right? And as I mentioned in class, I find it silly that people feel like they need to ask Google or Bing a question, right? We don't need to do that. If I want to search for cute cat videos, most people type the following into Google. Where can I find cute cat videos? Google doesn't need all of this because it works on a Boolean operator. So a Boolean search really replaces that with cat video and cute, right? Something like that. I just need the keywords. And the important thing is to think about alternate keywords, right, that I could use. Instead of cute, I could use adorable. Something like that, right? Note that here it's cute, cat video and cute. What if I wanted a cat video that wasn't cute? Well, I could use cat video not cute, and then the Boolean search is going to sort out everything that has cat video in it, in the title or in the body, and not the word cute. Okay, so there are 3 Boolean operators, and you can think about the difference between these 3. And is the one that people use most often. That is going to be the most narrow, right? Puppy and kitten, it's going to be both things. So if I'm looking at YouTube videos, that middle section is going to be videos that are only puppies and kittens, not just puppies, not just kittens. It should be both together. If I use the Boolean operator, the word or, I'm going to get everything. That's the broadest I can get, right? So if you're really trying to broaden your search out, or will give you that. Because what it's going to do is it's actually going to look for either something with a puppy in it or something with a kitten in it. So you're going to get a list of videos, per se, or Google entries that are anything to do with puppies or anything to do with kittens. Not will restrict you to one. So if I wanted puppies but not kittens, I use that, right? And then I'm going to restrict it that way. So this is kind of a visual representation of how they work, and I find that nice for kind of thinking about how these work. So how is it, why is it helpful, right? Why is a Boolean search helpful? So EBSCO, which we looked at on Thursday again, is an online tool that uses a Boolean search. Now, the thing that I want you to think about is what you type into those fields, and you can see where it says and. Now I can change that to or not to change that and narrow or broaden my field. So let's say I start with artificial intelligence, right? If I add ethics, I now get 220 results, right? And I can see that that's down from 41,195. So I've significantly narrowed my field, and everything that comes up should be both artificial intelligence and something to do with ethics, right? Now, if I wanted to narrow it even further, I can add the word advancements. And look now, I've reduced from 220 to 7, right? Much more manageable field, much more specific. So as you add that specificity, you're likely to find something more useful. Now, I didn't do it for here, but I could have done artificial intelligence, not ethics, and it would have also restricted it. If I wanted more, I could say artificial intelligence or ethics, and that will give me both. But what I have to be aware of is that that's going to give me things that have to do with ethics, which may not have anything at all to do with artificial intelligence. Okay, so on to that. So once I've used my Boolean search to find some articles, and I've used EBSCO, quick reminder on that, I meant to say it, is you can access that through the Shoreline webpage. So if you go to Shoreline and you go type in library in the search, go to library, and you go down and you can find EBSCO. Academic Search Complete is the one that we like to use. It's probably the most useful, rather than trying to pinpoint one specific scholarly article. Okay. So when we evaluate an article, there are a couple things we need to consider. Is there an apparent bias? Bias might include author's personal perspective, ignoring additional facts, not addressing counter arguments, something like that. We can all think of examples that of news media that have bias, right? Breitbart has one significant bias that is different from something like the Huffington Post. And almost every article that you read is going to have some sort of bias unless it's an encyclopedia entry. Is the source reliable? Reliability might include where it was published. Again, think about what I just mentioned. Who published it, right? Do they have an agenda? If you know that a source tends to have a bias, then you might question the reliability. And we'll talk more about reliability here in a moment. Is this a strong source? So strength is based on the quality of information presented. The fact that an article was published in a scholarly journal by an expert doesn't necessarily mean that it is exceptionally strong. And so you just have to kind of think about what you need and what you want. But I'd say, for the most part, if you're looking at scholarly articles, it's probably strong, it's probably reliable. There may still be a bias, right? We can see that in things like ethics or philosophy, right? Or psychology, there's probably going to be a bias. So questions to ask, right? So again, this is kind of reiterating like what we just looked at. Where was it published? What is the website, newspaper, or magazine? Is it a professional journal? That is it a scholarly article? Or is it something like... what would be a good example? Wired magazine, right? That is a techie magazine, or Scientific American, right? They're more professional, right? Is it a popular source or a scholarly source? When was it published? Something on AI that was published 10 years ago is not going to be as useful as something published now unless I'm looking at a comparison and contrast between how AI has evolved. And who is the author? Does the author have any specific credentials? Is the author a professor, doctor, an expert? And is there any clear bias on the author's part? Right? So just questions to ask yourself. So reliability, right? So this article was published 2 years ago to the website newsexaminer.net. And you can see the headline reads, "World's First Head Transplant, a Success After 19-Hour Operation." It was posted 2 years ago. Sounds pretty legitimate. We've got a picture of some doctors there. They all look pretty, professional, right? They look like legitimate doctors, and they probably are. It's probably a photo taken out of context. As you can see, the article claims the world's first head transplant was a success. Nevertheless, this is a fake. There are people that go out there and plant these things, and they're generally a hoax. I did a little bit of looking around, and there is currently in 2017, not 2 years ago, but currently now, somebody who has volunteered for a head transplant, I believe in Russia, but that's only volunteering for it. That's a long ways from it being a success. So when we research these things, and if you can find this article very easily if you want to do a quick search, it's a sort of interesting read. But there are red flags that go off right away. One thing that you can do if you're not sure about the reality of something is Snopes.com is a good website to check. It's kind of a fun one to check and see what the current hoaxes are out there. Some of them are silly, and some of them are, more, wow, somebody could read this and think, oh, they've actually done a head transplant. And of course, we've got Mr. Lincoln here saying the the thing about quotes from the internet is that it's hard to verify their authenticity, Abraham Lincoln. So did Abraham Lincoln say that? Oh, very doubtful, since he was dead long before the internet became a thing. The point to that picture, and I kind of like it, is that you can't just take it for granted, as you all know, being reasonable human beings and reasonable adults, that just because you see it on the internet is true. And those last two slides should help prove that point. Okay, so as you research, and we talked about this a little bit with the research proposal, right, and with the plagiarism presentation, right? As you research, keep track of your sources. You know, it's nice to just kind of put a note to yourself, popular or scholarly. Note when it was published, who wrote it, and whether or not information in the article agrees with information you found elsewhere. That article I just showed you about the head transplant, you would think that there would be a bunch of news about that, at least on Wikipedia, if not in the encyclopedia, especially it being 2 years old. There is not, right? So that, to me, is a red flag right away, that there's this massive event, first human head transplant, and it only exists in one place, right? That's a pretty clear sign that it's not reliable. Okay, so let's go on to the annotated bibliography so that you know what to expect. Again, because it is due on Friday, so today is Wednesday. I say today, it's actually Tuesday, but power of the internet. So it is Wednesday for you all. Hopefully, if you're watching this now, on time as indicated on the syllabus. The annotated bibliography is due in a couple days. It's 5 sources, at least 3 of which need to be scholarly sources, and the other 2 can be popular. If you want to do 5 scholarly sources, that's fine with me, but you need to have at least 3 scholarly sources, okay? And you would use EBSCO to find that. Academic Search Complete, or go to the library. Okay, so the annotated bibliography, what it is. An annotated bibliography is a research tool that allows us to evaluate information. You'll need to find 5 different sources, at least 3 scholarly and 2 popular, that support your research question, right? So this should go with your research proposal. What you're doing now is you're taking your research proposal and you're following your own advice and finding those sources that you can use and potentially could use in a paper. Each source will be cited using correct MLA8 formats. Again, Purdue OWL is great for that. Sources will be in alphabetical order, right? There's one thing that I saw in the research proposals that some of you had maybe even the correct citations, but they were not in the correct order. So if there's a last name for the author, it needs to be alphabetical by author's last name, right? And then each citation will be followed by 150 to 300 word analysis of the source, taking into account bias, reliability, and strength. What I'm really looking at there is that you think of that summary, that analysis, as something that you can use. I want to see you as students thinking about the truth of that article that you found. How is it going to be useful, right? This is what I'm really looking for there. And that should be in a more formal tone. I don't want just a summary. And I want to make that very clear. I don't want you to just go through and summarize the article for me. I want to know how it's important to you and whether or not it's reliable. So you could quickly, in a sentence, say, because this is in the Journal of American Medical Association, it's reliable, and there's probably not much bias, and it's probably very strong. Fair. What you do need to do then is say, how is this going to connect to your central question, to your research question, or your research proposal? And if you have questions on that, please ask me, and I'll try and clarify further. So why do we use them? Annotated bibliographies serve at least 2 main purposes, right? It allows you to keep track of your sources and evaluate the information located in each source. And it allows me as your instructor to assess how you are doing research and how you are thinking about it, because part of our class is figuring out how to conduct research in a more effective and efficient manner. So how do we do them? An annotated bibliography requires that you complete 3 basic steps. You find and read an article that pertains to your research question, your research proposal. You correctly cite your source using MLA8 format, and then that you summarize and or paraphrase the article in 150 to 300 words. I understand that that might be confusing now because I do have summarized there. You will probably do a little bit of summarizing in order to explain how it connects. I just do not want the whole 150 to 300 words to simply be a summary of the article. The author talks about X, Y, and Z. It should be the author talks about X, which is good because it connects to my research question, will allow me to further support my argument that penguins are cute, whatever. Okay, wait. Oh, okay. So the assignment, to reiterate, in summary, the assignment being your annotated bibliography. You'll find 5 sources that support your research question. At least 3 of them do need to be scholarly. All 5 of them can be scholarly, but I'm trying to do you a favor by saying 3 scholarly, 2 popular, that's fine. You may need to research to find other sources. You probably don't have all of them at this point. Each correct citation will be followed by at least 1 paragraph description of the source and its importance to your essay. Do not simply use an annotation widget. Again, plagiarism. If you don't know what an annotation widget is, you're probably not going to use one because you have to go and find one. Use the correct MLA8 citation. I suggest that you do not use EasyBib. It is not always reliable and does not always give you the correct format. So use Purdue OWL just so you can get it right. Make sure that you get it right. Okay. Please note that there is an example of the annotated bibliography located under files on the Canvas site. I only did 2 sources, but you can see kind of what I'm looking for. If you follow that template, you're going to be fine. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's pretty much the gist of it. So, annotated bibliography rough draft due this Friday, the 7th. Your research proposal, which is revised drafts of your research proposal and your annotated bibliography, will be due on Tuesday. Now, in case there's any question, the annotated bibliography is connected to your research proposal. So they are one and the same concept, right? So you wrote the research proposal, now you're going to go and do the research, and you're going to sort of expand that project. The next step, if we were to write a paper, would be to write the paper, but as I mentioned in class, this is a dry run to get down those research skills, and you can sort of hone those skills for the first big research essay, okay? So if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll try and respond as quickly as I can, and I will see you all in class on Thursday. Again, no library day because I wasn't able to arrange it. So I think what we've got in this presentation and what we'll talk about in class will cover you. You just will have to go and do your research outside of class. All right, so I'll see you guys in class on Thursday.